Less than a day remains until Volodymyr Zelensky meets Donald Trump, and suddenly the American president started openly shocking everyone with his statements. Moreover, Donald Trump unexpectedly lashed out with criticism at both Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin. But unexpectedly for Russians, Trump directly stated that the Russian economy is in a severe decline and that Russians should hurry to sign a peace agreement. And in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, they added that for some reason the United States rejected the Russians' idea to restore air travel between the countries. And in general, Washington urged the Russians to behave well in the negotiations, otherwise things will end very badly for them. At the same time, the first positive shifts have appeared regarding negotiations to end the war. In particular, security guarantees, the issue of territorial concessions, control over the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and a large economic package for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Volodymyr Zelensky, before his meeting with United States President Trump, revealed details of the upcoming talks at the United States President's residence, Mar-a-Lago. Zelensky noted that the following points will be discussed during the talks: security guarantees between Ukraine and the United States, security guarantees from Europe, and the issue of military cooperation. That is, this is the closed part of the negotiations, the $800 billion plan for Ukraine's prosperity and recovery, and the plan for sequential actions after the war. It is known that Zelensky is visiting Canada today, from where he is holding a phone conference during which he is speaking with European leaders to finally coordinate positions with Europe. But while things are more or less stable for Zelensky, Trump is objectively being shaken. He simultaneously stated that Zelensky once again has no cards and immediately added that Russia shouldn't show off too much since its economy is on the verge of collapse. So let's try to figure out these confusing messages coming from the American president. My name is Alexei Pechi. Let's discuss this topic together, but before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, give it a like, and leave any comment under this episode. This really helps a lot with promoting the video on YouTube, and I would be grateful to you for that. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechi News. The link is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as it comes in. So, on the eve of negotiations with Vladimir Zelensky, which will take place tomorrow, December 28, Trump lashed out with criticism against the Russians and Vladimir Putin personally. Trump stated that Russia, which has been trying to capture all of Ukraine for almost 4 years, has found itself in a difficult economic situation. According to Donald Trump, quote, "Their economy is in bad shape, very, very bad shape." Well, if we talk not about Trump's quotes, but about the numbers, then. At the beginning of December, the Ministry of Finance of the Russian Federation reported an increase in the budget deficit for January-November 2021 to 4.3 trillion rubles. And that's 12 times more than for the same period last year. So, as you can understand, the hole in the budget is really growing at an incredible rate. Trump also announced last night that he plans to have another conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin soon and will talk to him. Quote, "As much as I want," a strange quote, but still. On Friday, it became known that Zelensky is planning to meet with Trump regarding ending the war with Russia at Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida on December 28. According to the Ukrainian president, he will bring with him an updated draft of the 20-point peace settlement plan. The document includes the creation of a demilitarized zone in Donbass, and the meeting is expected to focus on security guarantees from the United States of America. And we'll discuss all these points in more detail a bit later. It's important now to note the reaction of Donald Trump, who, is behaving like a child, and that's not an exaggeration. One moment he says he'll talk to Putin as much as he wants. Well, as if anyone is actually forbidding him or setting any time limits for him. It's unclear why he even said that. And now Trump has already lashed out at Zelensky with criticism, saying that there are still no security guarantees. Well, what is Zelensky even talking about? Quote, "Zelensky won't get anything until I approve it." So let's see what he has. Well, that's a strange quote too. Zelensky is negotiating security guarantees, though he doesn't have them yet. Trump wanted to show he's in charge. Trump immediately expressed hope for a productive meeting with Zelensky, saying, "I believe everything will be fine." In general, there's some kind of strange situation happening with Trump here as well. It's important to note that the day before, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov loudly rejected the 20-point peace plan and tried to disrupt the very subject of negotiations between Trump and Zelensky. Like, Russia doesn't agree, so what are you even planning to talk about? But today, new details about United States-Russian relations have emerged. The Kremlin's attempts to bargain with Washington for the resumption of air travel between Russia and the United States, which the Russian side has been making since February after the start of the negotiation process on Ukraine, have once again brought no results. The same Ryabkov, who was very tough yesterday, reported that the White House flatly refuses to meet halfway on this issue until the war in Ukraine is stopped. And here is a quote from Ryabkov. "They do not agree to this, and so far, there are no changes in this area. Washington suggests first reaching an agreement on Ukraine and only then returning to this and other issues. Let me remind you that the United States and European Union quickly closed their airspace to Russian airlines after that. This marked the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Russia started talking about resuming flights with the United States at the end of February 2025 during negotiations to end Russia's war against Ukraine in Istanbul. At that time, Moscow also began to propose to the United States to restore the normal operation of diplomatic missions and started asking for the return of Russian diplomatic property in the United States. But the White House simply brushed the Russians off. They said, "Listen, what are you making up? Who do you even think you are?" First is Russia's war against Ukraine, followed by issues like air travel and diplomatic property. Nevertheless, the meeting between Zelensky and Trump will take place tomorrow, and it's obvious that everyone is now trying to raise the level of tension, absolutely everyone. But Ukraine, by the way, is behaving as restrained and constructive as possible in this situation, especially despite all the Russians' outcries. Despite all of Trump's statements, Zelensky succinctly but clearly stated exactly what he is bringing to Trump. To put it briefly, the following points will be discussed at the negotiations: Ukraine-United States security guarantees, Ukraine-Europe security guarantees, the military dimension, and the plan for prosperity and recovery. There will be many documents since we're creating several funds for reconstruction, recovery, investment, prosperity, and more. There will be a whole set of documents that are supposed to be in effect until 2040, meaning for the next 15 years. And in addition, the budget there is quite substantial. All these funds amount to as much as $800 billion, plus there's also a plan for sequential post-war actions. And as Zelensky stated, quote, "We want to propose step by step how to make all those plans I've already mentioned actually work. The United States will definitely discuss all this with the Russians and will get feedback." By the way, a detailed analysis of the security guarantees from the United States of America was released on my channel yesterday, so go and check it out if you happen to miss it. At the same time, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, called the issues of territory and the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant red lines for Ukraine. At the peace talks, Zelensky assured that no matter how the negotiations go, legally, Ukraine will not recognize anything under any circumstances. Zelensky also acknowledged that potential peace agreements could cause dissatisfaction among part of Ukrainian society. In that case, according to him, a dialogue with the people is necessary, and as a means of expressing their will, that very referendum could be considered. And here I'll go into more detail. As Zelensky stated, in the peace plan and other documents, there are still some painful compromises which he proposes to resolve through a referendum. And here I'll quote Zelensky at length. Let's first of all look at the plan, which is to end the war. Right now, we have progress with the United States of America, but that's one side, that's us with the Americans, and there's also a second side, which is more complicated, that's the Americans with the Russians. Ukraine's task today is to put all the possibilities on paper so that the country has both security guarantees, agreements on reconstruction, and a 20-point peace plan. There are some compromise points there. If we have things that raise a lot of questions or cause public dissatisfaction, we will talk to society about it and think about how to resolve those issues. There will definitely be a dialogue with society. Also regarding security guarantees, this is the coalition of the willing and the Americans, and I have already spoken with Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General. He is ready to discuss even some details regarding guarantees from the coalition of the willing. I think all of this will help. It's very important that we can open up to our society. In the end, there is a referendum, there are elections, there are many tools for society to express its will. But Zelensky immediately warned that Russia would try to disrupt this process, or at the very least would do everything possible to manipulate this referendum and the elections. The Kremlin has already set the task to do everything so that Ukrainians who are in Russia and in the occupied territories of Ukraine can vote in the upcoming presidential elections and in the referendum, according to Zelensky. I received a report from the Foreign Intelligence Service this morning. Russia has already set the task to do everything so that Ukrainians who are on the territory of the Russian Federation, as well as those Ukrainians who are in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, have the opportunity to vote. The Kremlin's goal is to convince everyone that a large number of people live in these territories and that they have the right to vote. Then claim that Russia doesn't recognize these elections. Russia doesn't care how to convey the elections and the message about the illegitimacy of the Ukrainian government. Russia itself is illegitimate, and that's why it will keep sending messages about the illegitimacy of the Ukrainian government. And I would also like to point out an important detail. It is already known that the meeting between Zelensky and Trump will be public, with cameras, journalists, questions, and so on. Why am I saying this? Let me remind you, the Russians are insisting that all negotiations about the war be held behind closed doors and even classified. When Peskov was asked yesterday, "So what did Kirill Dmitriev bring from Miami?" he repeated several times that you, under no circumstances. Who are you, the people? What? Just some little people? You don't need to know about this. All negotiations must be closed, fully classified, and not discussed with ordinary Russians. Well, so what if some Ivan Russians are dying in Ukraine or are left without arms or legs? Well, let them be. Is that your business or something? Here, Russians are telling you directly, yes, no one will even discuss anything with you. The way Putin says, that's how it will be, and you, like plebs, will just obey whatever Putin says. I got carried away talking. I'll put an ellipsis here. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you found this episode interesting and informative, you can support the work of this YouTube channel with your donation or subscription through the links and details provided. In the description of this video, it clearly says support Alexei Pichi's channel. Choose any format that's convenient for you. I would appreciate any support from you. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.